Shri Prabhupada, Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prishthaya, Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, text number 10 of the 10 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Abhi, you can just do the thing. Nan, sorry, Nanritam. What are you doing? Tava, Tach, Chapi, Yatha, Mam, Prabhavishi, Bhoho, Avignaya, Param, Mattam, Etavat, Etavat, Tvam, Yato, Hi, Me, Nant, Nanritam, Tava, Tachapi, Yata Mam, Pravavishi, Bhoho, Avignaya, Param, Matta, Etavatvam, Yato, Hi, Me, Nanritam, Tava, Tachapi, Yata Mam, Pravavishi, Bhoho, Avignaya, Param, Matta, Etavatvam, Yato, Hi, Me, Nanritam tava tachapi yatha mam prabhavishi bhoho avignaya parammatta etavatvam yato hi me. Please repeat. Nanritam tava tachapi pravishi bhoho avignaya parammatta etavatvam yato hi me. Mataji, please. Nanritam tava tachapi yatamam prabhavishi bhoho avignaya parammatta etavatmam yato hi me. Nam, not. Anritam, false. Tava, of yours. Tat, that. Cha, also. Api, as you have stated. Yatha, in the matter of. Mam, of myself. Prabhavishim, as you describe. Poho, O my son. Avignaya, without knowing. Param, the supreme. Mattaha, beyond myself. Etavat, all that you have spoken. Tvam, yourself. Yataha, for the reason. He, certainly. May, about me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth beyond me, is sure to be illusion by observing my powerful activities. Purport: the frog in the well logic illustrates that a frog residing in the atmosphere and boundary of a well cannot imagine the length and breadth of the gigantic ocean. Such a frog, when informed of the gigantic length and breadth of the ocean, first of all does not believe that there is such an ocean. And if someone assures him that factually there is such a thing, the frog then begins to measure it by imagination by means of pumping his belly as far as possible, with the result that the tiny abdomen of the frog bursts and the poor frog dies without any experience of the actual ocean. Similarly, the material scientists also want to challenge the inconceivable potency of the Lord by measuring him with their frog like brains and their scientific achievements. But at the end, they simply die unsuccessfully like the frog. Sometimes a materially powerful man is accepted as God or the incarnation of God without any knowledge of the factual God. Such a material assessment may be gradually extended, and the attempt may reach the highest limit of Brahmaji, who is the topmost living being within the universe and has a duration of life unimaginable to the material scientists. As we get information from the most authentic book of knowledge, the Bhagavad Gita 8.17, Brahmaji's one day and night is calculated to be some hundreds of thousands of years on our planet. This duration of life may not be believed by the frog in the well, but persons who have a realization of truths mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita accept the existence of a great personality who creates the variegatedness of the complete universe. It is understood from the revealed scripture that Brahmaji of this universe is younger than all other Brahmas in charge of the many, many universes beyond this. But none of them can be equal to the personality of Godhead. Naradaji is one of the liberated souls, and after his liberation, he was known as Narada. Otherwise, before his liberation, he was simply the son of a maidservant. The question may be asked why Naradaji was not aware of the Supreme Lord and why he misconceived Brahmaji to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he was the Supreme Lord, although factually he was not. A liberated soul is never bewildered by such a mistaken idea. So why did Naradaji ask all these questions just like an ordinary man with a poor fund of knowledge? There was such bewilderment in Arjuna also, although he is eternally the associate of the Lord. Such bewilderment in Arjuna or in Narada takes place by the will of the Lord, so that other non liberated persons may realize the truth and knowledge of the Lord, the doubt arising in realize the truth and knowledge of the Lord. The doubt arising in the mind of Narada about Brahmaji's becoming all powerful is a lesson for the frogs in the well, that they may not be bewildered in misconceiving the identity of the personality of Godhead, even by comparison to a personality like Brahma. So, what to speak of ordinary men who falsely pose themselves as God or an incarnation of God? The Supreme Lord is always the Supreme. And as we have tried to establish many times in these purports, no living being, even up to the standard of Brahma, can claim to be one with the Lord. One should not be misled when people worship a great man as God after his death as a matter of hero worship. There were many kings like Lord Ramachandra, the king of Ayodhya, but none of them are mentioned as God in the revealed scriptures. To be a good king is not necessarily the qualification for being Lord Rama, but to be a great personality like Krishna is a qualification for being the personality of Godhead. If we scrutinize the characters who took part in the battle of Kurukshetra, we may find that Maharaj Yudhishthir was no less a pious king than Lord Ramachandra, and by character study, Maharaj Yudhishthir was a better moralist than Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna asked Maharaj Yudhishthir to lie, but Maharaj Yudhishthir protested. But that does not mean that Maharaj Yudhishthir could be equal to Lord Ramachandra or Lord Krishna. The great authorities have estimated Maharaj Yudhishthir to be a pious man, but they have accepted Lord Rama or Krishna as a personality of Godhead. The Lord is therefore a different identity in all circumstances, and no idea of anthropomorphism can be applied to him. The Lord is always the Lord, and a common living being can never be equal to him. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Sri Vishakanvatamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sandho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sandubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamanati Namine Nijaguru Hari Vanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitri Gehadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Madjayan Samsa Vishwa Bhui Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamanati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shuhunyavadi Paschati Deshatarane Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivakshisi Yasyasya Hridaye Samvit Tamrasimhamaham Bhaje Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Kirim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading this. Please put it on my back. Thank you. That was close. So we're reading this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Narada Muni is inquiring from Lord Brahma as to who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. Prabhu, can I have my phone back, please? Thank you. So, um, we see this over here that Narada Muni is inquiring from Lord Brahma who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And usually, when devotees are given such questions, they reply in a similar way as Lord Brahma replied. Like we can see in the previous verse, Lord Brahma says, he thanks him, right? My dear, Lord Brahma said, my dear boy Narada, being merciful to all, including me, you have asked all these questions, and thus inspired me to see into the prowess of the Almighty Personality of Godhead. We can see that Lord Brahma is thanking Narada Muni. Similarly, Sutta Goswami also thanks the sages of Naimisharanya for asking these kinds of questions. He says, Munaya Sada Prishtoham Bhavadbir Lokamangalam Yatkrita Krishna Samprashno Yen Atma Suprasiditi. That Munaya Sada Prishtoham, all of you have done a very great job by asking me these questions. Why? Because when one asks these questions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what happens? Bhavadbir Lokamangalam. That although the living entities are suffering, in this existence in the material world, they're suffering the tribulations of time, they're suffering the tribulations of their karmic activities, their bitter fruits of their fruitive activities, and all these things. When such questions are asked and the answers are given, then at that point of time, these personalities thank them because they do loka mangalam. They make the entire world auspicious. They make the entire world auspicious because they actually remove the suffering of the material world. So similarly, we can see this that um, that Brahma is saying, whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate truth beyond me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities. That a living entity, by nature, a symptom of a living entity being an illusion means that the living entity actually thinks that their senses are the measure of what greatness can be. That's what a living entity thinks. That I think that whatever my senses can perceive, only what I can conceive of, the greatest limit of my conception is what greatness can be. And that is what Brahma is addressing here to Narada, thinking that, yes, because you're a limited living entity and I have more of a material qualification than you think that I'm so much better. You think that I'm Supreme Personality of Godhead, but that is a symptom of one who is an illusion. Prabhupada is giving this example of a frog in the well. That, once, like, there's a frog who lives in a well and he's lived his entire life in that well. And another frog comes from outside the well and he falls into he comes from the ocean, or he comes from the shore, and he falls into the well. And, the other frog asks him, hey, my dear frog, where are you from? And he tells him, I'm from the ocean. Ocean, what is that? I never heard of the ocean. He said, ocean is like a huge body of water. And then the frog is thinking, oh, really? How big is this body of water? Is it like as big as my well? Then the other frog is like, oh, yeah, it's much bigger than your well. And he says, is it 5 times as big? And they said, no, much bigger. 10 times, much bigger. And then, like, he starts to like expand his abdomen. Is it this big and this big and this big? And he pumps himself up. And then before he understands, he explodes and he dies because he's killed himself in this kind of mental speculation. So similarly, there's another story given that, Prabhupada compared the scientists, the material scientists, to croaking frogs. The frogs, they like to croak at night. They think, oh, wow, I'm croaking, I'm singing so nicely. Wow, it's so amazing. You know, I love to croak at night. So the frogs are croaking and croaking and croaking. But who likes to hear the frogs croak? Snakes. They love to hear the frogs croak. And then the snake comes and he says, wow, frog, where are you? Hare Krishna. And he comes, not Hare Krishna. He just comes and eats the frog. He just comes and eats the frog. He comes and he eats the frog, and the frog is dead. And now he's become the dinner of the snake. So, similarly, the scientists are croaking and croaking and croaking like the frogs, and then the snake of time comes and devours them. The snake of time comes and devours them, kills them, finishes, over. Life is over, finished. So similarly, these frogs, they also think that what he could measure, that's the limit of the ocean. But the ocean is so much more than him. The ocean is unlimited compared to the water in the ocean is unlimited compared to the water in the well. But the frog, being an illusion, cannot conceive of this. Why? Because the frog thinks that he is the measure of all greatness. And what is this? Man is the measure of all. What is that? Something that they used to say in teachers in school. What is that? Man is a measure of. Anyway, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj quotes this too, but everyone knows, I guess, what I'm talking about. Yeah, man is the measure of all greatness. So something like this, that, right? Man is the measure of all greatness. But how is it that man is the measure of all greatness? No matter how much technology we may create, can we actually make planets float? No, man cannot do that. But they say, oh no, we are the measure of everything. That's great. That's why they think that we can figure everything out. We don't need anyone else. We don't need anything else. We actually have all the knowledge in the world, and because we have all the knowledge in the world, what is there a need for God? Constantly, the demons are trying to remove the need for God. What need is there for God, right? The demons say that God is the opiate of mankind. They say something like this, that God is the opiate of mankind, and they only need God because they can't really explain things. So they also call them the God of the gaps. They also call, God of the gaps. So if you can't explain something, just say God, over. But what they're actually trying to say is, you see, we are so intelligent that, fools like you may think God is needed. But actually, if you're intelligent, you'll understand that it's all like simply reactions of different chemicals. And then they promote this, that life comes from matter. Life comes from matter. Yes, we can create life in a test tube. What need is there for God? Then there's an example given. Prabhupada really like to quote this, that some Russian astronauts or something, they went up into outer space beyond the surface of the earth. And then they sent a message, yeah, we're looking around everywhere and I cannot see any God here. They flew a little bit above the surface of the earth and there's no sign of God. So I guess he's not here. So like, what did they expect? They expect them to fly and God is waiting for them. Hey, here I am. No, it doesn't work like that. Krishna reveals himself only to people who he thinks are qualified to be revealed. Otherwise, there's a curtain of illusion. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha mudo yam nabijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. He says that Naham, we can look this up over here, Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text number 25. Krishna says that he reserves the right to be known. I have never manifested the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. See, Krishna does not reveal. Krishna reserves the right to be known. Why? Because he's God. He can do whatever he likes. If he doesn't want to meet you, he's not going to meet you. That's all. Period. Even like you want to go and meet the president, but the president doesn't want to meet you. You can't meet him no matter what you do. The only way you can actually meet Krishna is by following the process. You follow the process of devotional service where a person can get close to Krishna by the performance of the principles laid down by Krishna's dear servants. So we understand this. that only Krishna can actually be accepted as God, and not some other ordinary person on the street, or maybe someone who's a little extraordinary, a little bit, they know a little bit more, they can do a little bit more things than we can. Therefore, we think this person is God Himself. But that is not true. That is not true. Because a person may be a little bit greater, but does not mean that that person is actually God. We can see this, that okay, if a person is a little bit stronger, if a person is a little bit smarter, okay, that's great. He may be smarter than you. He may be able to do so much more mathematics than we can that you could do. But can he do everything else that Krishna does? The reason people have this kind of misconceptions is because they do not understand who God is. What is the definition of God according to Shastra? Who can tell me? What's the definition of God? That's right. Sad Aishwarya Purna. Aishwarasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashriyaha. You know that he's full of six opulences. What are the six opulences of Krishna? He's all beautiful. He's all knowing. He has all the wealth in the world. He's all the strength. Famous, and he's extremely renounced. You know, Krishna has all these things. So a person may be a little intelligent. Okay, that means he has a lot of knowledge. But does he have knowledge about everything else? Does he have knowledge about? Let's just say a person is a great scientist. Does he have knowledge as to how to make a chapati? Most of the time, these people cannot make a chapati. They don't even know what a chapati is. A person may know a few languages. Do they know all the languages in the world? They don't know. A person may be very strong, fantastic. You may be very strong, and he may be able to pull like two, whatever, like trucks towards him or something like that. Okay, fantastic. Can you lift a Govardhan hill with your pinky and stand like that for 7 days? No. Person may be very beautiful. How long will they be beautiful? How long? Not so long. So many beautiful people. You can look at pictures of beautiful people from 1920 in America. What are their bodies? How do their bodies look like now? Do we want to even open the casket and see how their bodies look like? No. They're all rotting away. What happened to the so-called beauty? It doesn't last. And even if a person is so beautiful, like, even as a karmi, this always bewildered me, and this is a fact. And like, the men used to tell me that no matter how beautiful she is, there's always one guy who's sick and tired of being with her. Right? It's just a fact. No matter how beautiful she is, there's always a guy who's sick and tired of being with her. Why? Because beauty has limit. Material beauty has a limit. How long? How long is that beauty? Even if their beauty lasts for a long time, it doesn't really fully satisfy. Why? Because it's a material opulence. Intelligence, knowledge, renunciation. Okay, some people may be very renounced, they may be such a great renunciate. Then you see so many Mayavadis are such great renunciates, they renounce everything. They renounce eating, they do this, they do that. But like, they can't renounce their own false ego. They cannot renounce their own attachment to thinking that ultimately that they're the supreme, that they are God. They cannot renounce their misconceptions. A person may be, we went over knowledge, beauty, strength. Person may be very wealthy. But do they own all the wealth in the world? Do they own all the wealth in the world? Whoever the richest man on the planet may be, whatever, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. Can Jeff Bezos claim that he owns Elon Musk's wealth? Can Elon Musk claim that he owns Jeff Bezos' wealth? No. There's always a competition. Who owns more wealth? Krishna owns all the wealth in the world. But people do not understand this point. Are we missing anything? Beauty, knowledge, renunciation, fame. Famous, yes. Some people may be so famous. Tom Cruise is a really famous personality in America. But then once Tom Cruise was visiting India, and people didn't even know who he was. So then the Indian side who was inviting him, they had to pay 500 rupees per person. They paid, I'll give you 500 bucks if you come and act excited to see Tom Cruise. I'll give you 500. Like that. They got so many people who they paid 500 rupees each in order to come and be ecstatic in front of Tom Cruise. They didn't even know who this guy is. They had no clue. Shah Rukh Khan is another great personality in India. Like, he's basically like the Acharya of back in the day movies or something. But he's still trying to look young, but he's not. And he looks miserable. Anyway, but he went to some country, and he thought like, I'm Shah Rukh Khan. Everyone knows me. But then the immigration officer didn't know who he was, and that country that he was trying to get into was not so favorable to Muslims. Like, I don't know. I think you're a terrorist or something. And he just like bans his visa. How much famous can you be? How famous can you be? How famous can you be? You know, how many people listen to the Beatles even now? You listen to the Beatles? See? Back then, everyone would listen to the Beatles. You're what, 23? Back then, every 23-year-old, they were like the worshipable deities. Where are the Beatles now? What happened to their fame? They claimed to be more famous than Jesus at that point of time they were. But not anymore. Not anymore. Who knows who George Harrison is? George Harrison, who's that? Who's John Lennon? Who's that? Who knows? Who knows? They're all lost in the oblivion of time. But Krishna's fame eternally exists. If you like him or you hate him, you know that God is there. If you believe him or not, believe in him or not, you've heard of God. At least the name God. At least God. You've heard the Supreme. So many different names. But God's name is known. Everyone knows God exists. Everyone knows. No matter what, everyone knows. That's why Prabhupada is saying here, sometimes a materially powerful man is accepted as God or the incarnation of God without any knowledge of the factual God. Such a material assessment may be gradually extended and the attempt may reach to the highest limit of Brahmaji, who is the topmost living being within the universe and has a duration of life unimaginable to the material scientist. That we can see that, maybe this person is supreme, maybe this person is supreme, maybe this person is supreme. And a person's speculation may the ascending process may go all the way up to Brahma and they think, this person must be the supreme. And Hiranyakashipu thought like that. That, if I don't think I can capture the post of Brahma. But at least I can get a post from Brahma because he seems to be the supreme most living entity. He seems to be like the supreme most living entity who can give me benedictions. Therefore, I'll perform the austerity and just force Brahma's audience. I'll force Brahma to appear in front of me. And the fact that he could force Brahma to appear in front of him proves that Brahma is not God. No matter what we do, you cannot force Krishna to appear. It's just by his causeless mercy that he appears. That's just a fact. You cannot force Krishna. I'm going to pull you down. Why does Krishna care? Why does Krishna care? Who are we? Who are we really? Who are we? Who is Hiranyakashipu compared to who Krishna is? Who is he? Just another living entity. Just another living entity. But he could pull Brahma down. That shows that Brahma is not supreme. So we understand from different points of view. We should always understand, that what is this? Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says, hearing with contemplation leads to realization. So what we hear, we should contemplate. We should contemplate on what we hear. When we contemplate on what we hear, it sits, it fructifies, and then it churns, and the fruit is that of realization. So a person who is intelligent will understand that real knowledge means to know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Either that's too loud or I'm too loud. So I think you can control that better than me. So a real person who really wants to have knowledge will know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jnanam teham sa vijnanam idam vakshami sheshataha yajnatva neho bhuyonya jnatavyam avashishyate. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 2, where he says, I shall now declare to you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Just by knowing Krishna, a person will know everything. Why? Because that's the subject matter of all knowledge. Vedesha sarver ahameva vedyaha. That Krishna is a person who needs to be known from everything, from all the research work, all this, all that, all this, all that. Krishna is a person who needs to be known. Nothing else, no one else. A person may figure out, we are now making this great artificial intelligence, and soon we will be able to make like this fantastic spaceship which will, go past so many things. Like, Elon Musk too, we made a great spaceship and a rocket, and that thing exploded. What happened? You're so intelligent, you couldn't figure out how a rocket will not explode. Even if your rocket didn't explode, you could maybe go to Mars or maybe go here and there. But can we imagine to reach the abode of Krishna? Even if the Brahma Samhita says, Pantashta Kodishata Vatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Munipungavanam Sopyasiyata Simina Vichintya Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That even if we were to make a spaceship which travels at the speed of the mind, right? Mind travels faster than light, right? You think of some place, you say a word, and if I said Paris, immediately people may think about being in the Eiffel Tower, and you're immediately at the Eiffel Tower.
So that's the speed of the mind. Even if the materialists become so intelligent that they are able to create a spaceship which travels at the speed of the mind, and if this spaceship traveled for millions of years, still they would not even reach the light emanating from the toenails of Krishna, what to speak of the abode of Krishna. Even if they did that. Even if they did that. So, what is the use of all these material achievements? What is the use of this material achievement? Simply to gratify the senses better. Simply to gratify the senses better. But the senses have a limitation. All senses have a limitation. How much can we see? How much can we taste? How much can we hear? How much can we feel? How many of these things can we actually do? How ecstatic can we actually be knowing that we are so limited? We cannot be so ecstatic. We cannot be so happy. But people falsely claim to be God. So many fools and rascals, they claim to be God. I am God. I am God. You are God. We're all God. Actually, I am God. Actually, we're all God, but I'm more God than all of you. Therefore, you should worship me. This kind of nonsense goes on. Oh, I was unmanifest before, now I'm manifest again. Soon I'll be unmanifest again. What this kind of nonsense. Viparita is completely against the teachings of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Avyaktam vyaktamapannam manyante mama buddhayaha param bhavam ajananto mama vyamanutamam. He says, unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and now assume this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Krishna's form is imperishable. Krishna's pastimes are imperishable. They're eternal. But the demons, they take birth as brahmanas and try to kill Krishna like that in Kali Yuga. We see this, that the demons, they take, that's why so many Mayavadis, oh, yes, Krishna, this, that, and the, but ultimately Krishna is formless. We have so many people who are very intelligent. Even the scientists, of this Asuric social system. Prabhupada would say the scientists are like the brahmanas of this Asuric social system. So they take birth as scientists to kill Krishna. How can we kill Krishna? How can we kill Krishna? How can we kill the conception of God? How can we kill this conception? And the more attempts are made to kill this conception, the more and more their foolishness increases. The more their hopes are baffled. Moghasha mogha karmano moga gnana vichetasaha. Rakshasi masurim shaiva prakriti mohinim sitaha. That their hopes are baffled, their plans are baffled, their activities are baffled, their intelligence is baffled. Everything is completely baffled. Everything is completely destroyed. Why? Rakshasi masurim shaiva prakriti mohinim sitaha. And then what happens? They become a plaything in the hands of material nature. They're kicked around here and there and everywhere. They're kicked around by the acts of time. And we see this too, that even if this, they come to the realization, oh, Brahma is really supreme, and maybe Brahma is a supreme personality of Godhead. Brahma says that even he is not the supreme personality of Godhead. Prabhupada is writing about here, we know from revealed scripture that our Brahma is actually the youngest Brahma. He's the youngest Brahma that there is. And actually there's a lot more Brahmas than that. And my spiritual master recently in his talk on Ananta Book Bhokta. Ananta Hut Book Bhokta. That is the name of Lord Vishnu. He's speaking about this pastime where Lord Brahma went to the gate of Krishna's abode and he wanted to go see Krishna. So then the messenger at the gate says, oh, wait, let me just ask Krishna if he has the time to see you or whatever. So then this messenger goes to Krishna and says, Brahma is here to see you. And Krishna asks him, oh, okay, please ask him which Brahma is this? Which Brahma is this? So then, the gatekeeper comes back and asks him, Krishna's asking me, which Brahma are you? And then Brahma is really confused, thinking, what do you mean, which Brahma? I'm the only Brahma. I'm the father of the Sanat Kumaras. I have 4 heads. So then he says, okay. Then he goes back and tells Krishna, Chaturmukh Brahma is here. Brahma with four faces is here. So you please come. So then Krishna tells him, please come. So then Brahma comes and, Krishna meets him and greets him very honorably. And in a very polite way, asks him, yes, why have you come here? What business do you have? Very politely asks him. And then Brahma says, yes, I have a question, but I have something to ask you. But before that, I want to ask you another question. Your gatekeeper asked which Brahma. But I thought I was the only Brahma. Are there any more Brahmas than this? So then Krishna then within the blink of his eye, he just closes his eyes and he meditates. Then all the Brahmas from all the universes come. And like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that all of them came and they were offering their obeisances, and the crowns touching the floor created such a tumultuous sound. And Brahma saw that there were some Brahmas with 8 heads, some Brahmas with 100 heads, some Brahmas with 100,000 heads, some Brahmas with millions of heads, some Brahmas with billions of heads. And Lord Brahma couldn't conceive. He's thinking, how is this that there's a Brahma with 100 million heads? Lord Brahma couldn't conceive of this. He was thinking, what is this? What's going on? He sees and he's completely bewildered. And he sees, so many Shivas and so many Indras with, hundreds and thousands of eyes. Indras with hundreds and thousands of eyes. So many more eyes than the Indra of his universe. And he's completely shocked and he's really confused and bewildered. And he's thinking, what is this? What is this? This. And then, Krishna tells him that, oh yeah, my dear Brahma, you're the youngest Brahma. And, your universe is actually the smallest. Your universe is 4 billion yojanas wide, and actually that's one of the smallest universes. There's so many other Brahmas with, who have so many, and according to the amount of heads that the Brahma has, that's how big the universe is. There's some Brahmas with trillions of yojanas. Their universe is trillions of yojanas wide. Some Brahmas with so many more yojanas in their universe that you can't even imagine. But all these Brahmas combined cannot equal to even an aspect of Krishna's opulence. They cannot be equal to the power of Krishna, Krishna's intelligence. None of them can be equal to. Why? Why can't they be equal to Krishna? Because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All of them are simply but Krishna tells Brahma that no one can ever conceive of even 1/4 of my material creation, what to speak of 3/4 of the spiritual creation. Just like when birds are flying, 2 birds are flying, there's almost an unlimited amount of dust particles between them. Similarly, there's almost an unlimited amount of universes in this in this material world. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda kotim. That there's so many universes emanating from the pores of Mahavishnu that we cannot even conceive of. We cannot even understand. And that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the Supreme Personality of God. So many, Brahma was, and then Brahma, it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Brahma feels like he was a rabbit in comparison to all the other Brahmas. He was a rabbit comparison to them, like he was a rabbit in the midst of all these elephants. So small. And that is the head of our universe. So can we really understand how insignificant we are? Can we really understand how insignificant all our achievements and activities are in comparison to that of Krishna? Krishna is so much better. Krishna is so much more powerful. We cannot even conceive of all these things. And in order for us to understand this, Krishna sometimes puts his own devotees in illusion. Krishna's own devotees are kept in illusion, where the devotees are wondering, oh Krishna, like how is it that Arjuna and Krishna are actually Nara Narayana? It says in the Krishna book, Prabhupada writes, Arjuna and Krishna are actually Nara Narayana. Krishna is Narayana and Arjuna is Nara. How is it that they who are Nara Narayana, how the Arjuna who is Nara Narayana could be illusioned and start to think that all these things which are against Siddhanta? How is it that Narada Muni, who we know from the Srimad Bhagavatam, had attained God realization at the end of his life? Ask these kind of questions. Well, Krishna arranges for them to be in illusion because so everyone else can learn from their questions. It's a very simple thing. Nothing to be actually bewildered about. Nothing to be bewildered about. So therefore, so many people may pose as God, and so many people may pose as the Supreme, but no one can even claim to be one with Krishna. Because to be one with Krishna, that's Mayavad. That's very dangerous philosophy. To think that everything is one, I am God, you are God, we're all God. This is the most dangerous philosophy. Jivere nusara lagi, sutra kala vyas, Mayavadi bhasha shinle hai sarvanash. That in order to deliver the living entities, Veda Vyas wrote the Vedanta Sutra, but Well, actually, what happened? But the Mayavadis, when they comment upon it and when they speak about it, if a person who hears these commentaries, their entire life is completely destroyed. Mayavad kills the life of people. It kills their very existence. Why? Because ultimately it's so depressing. Ultimately, your existence is nullified. Does it sound very attractive? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So many people may be there. Prabhupada also writes that, oh, Yudhishthira Maharaj may, from a mundane calculation, seem to be more of an honest person than Krishna. But this doesn't make Yudhishthira Maharaj God. Krishna is God. Krishna is Supreme Personality of God. And whatever Krishna does is completely perfect. Whatever Krishna does is completely perfect. And we understand this through the revealed scriptures. So, the Lord is therefore a different identity in all circumstances, and no idea of anthropomorphism can be applied to him. The Lord is always the Lord, and a common living entity can never be equal to him. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Natum evaham jatanasham, natum neme janadipa, nachaiva na bhavishyama sarvavayam atah param. Sarvavayam atah param. That never was there a time where I did not exist, nor you nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Krishna is saying this very important point. Not in the future, never in the future shall any of us actually cease to be. Why? Why will none of us actually cease to be? And why will Krishna always remain Krishna? Because that is the nature of eternal life. That's the nature of something which is eternal. So many people can try to kill Sanatana Dharma. So many people can try to kill the eternal occupation of the living entity, Sanatana. But by nature, something which is eternal cannot be killed. Therefore, the process of Krishna consciousness is eternal. The process given by Srila Prabhupada is eternal. As long as we stick to the process given to us by Srila Prabhupada, then we also will not be vanquished by the waves of time. Important thing to understand, important point to note. And yeah, we can also see there's so many Brahmas. So how much book distribution is there to do? There is so much book distribution to do. If we somehow succeed to distribute books to all living entities in this planet, including all the plants, beasts, and animals, still, including what? Including all the people who go to the airport. If we somehow got all of them to take Srila Prabhupada's books, then there's so many more planetary systems where they do not have Prabhupada's books. We can go distribute Prabhupada's books there. And if we somehow manage to distribute books to all the living entities in this universe, this is the smallest universe. We can get so many awesome Sankirtan spots, right? We can get so many awesome... Prabhu, this universe is so ecstatic. There's so many people, we can distribute so many books there, and so many books there. And then, we can just, do a little philosophical speculation because it's bona fide. If Prabhupada is preaching in another planet, because that planet, the Brahma has more life, and so not more life, but he has more heads and the more material facilities, then Prabhupada may have finished his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam fully. Yeah. Then there's so many more books Prabhupada would have written. We have so much service to do. We can go distribute books everywhere in all these universes and all these planets. There's unlimited service to do. And this service is eternal. Service is eternal. We're like, oh man, I got to go to a Walmart somewhere else, next life also. If you're not into it, you can go back home, back to Godhead, no problem. But, you can serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada no matter what, no matter where you are. No matter where you are, you can serve. You can go to the spiritual world and serve Prabhupada there. And for personalities like Prabhupada, they have their identity in the spiritual world where they're with Krishna, and they're also coming in serving Krishna. They're serving Krishna. This is the real traveling Sankirtan party. Prabhupada is always on a traveling Sankirtan party. He's going and writing his books and distributing his books in so many other places. And we can also be on this traveling Sankirtan party with Srila Prabhupada and his faithful followers. And that will be the perfection of our life. Let's be the perfection of our life. So I'll have to end the class here. If there's any questions or comments, we can take them now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So, this worship of that Hiranyakashipu did to Brahma, although he recognized, one sense, could be considered a demigod worshipper. Yes and no, because he is a demigod worshipper in the sense that he worshipped Brahma and he got his boons from him, like all the others. But he's also a demon, and means because these demigod worshippers, actually he's a demigod worshipper.
Yeah.
But my point is that they fail to recognize the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one of the characteristics of these demons is, like you mentioned, is that they force, the demigods to do their bidding, and therefore they don't like, you know,
Krishna.
Krishna, or they do approach Krishna in that way. I mean, Jarasandha was trying to get Shalagram to give him blessings. Otherwise, why would he worship? You know, and that as devotees, we have to be careful that we can supplicate the Lord with prayers, and that's a good thing also, especially even though we may philosophically understand that, I'm supposed to be transcendental, but still we may have some needs and we want to pray to Krishna. But we must always recognize the fact that, ultimately he is going to do what's best for us, whether we like it or not, and that we have to worship Krishna in that mood. That, protect me, I'm dependent on you, so please, provide for me, and that I'm ultimately subordinate to you, and that I'm nothing in front of your material energy. And so even like we're currently reading these prayers of
Shukadev Goswami.
no, well, that, yeah, but prayers, at least I'm reading prayers of Devahuti, sorry, not Devahuti, Aditi to the Supreme Lord, and she has a need. She wants her sons to, be reinstated in their positions of power within the universe. But still, she prays to the Supreme Lord that, ultimately you're the controller. And we're just insignificant living entities subject to your illusory power. And, but, please be merciful unto us. Like this, the devotee is praying for the Supreme Lord's mercy, not that, no, he's demanding like Hiranyakashipu, So,
Yeah, true. Yes, Kalki Prabhu. Yeah, just like, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't force Krishna into his books, but, by his such attractive devotional service, Krishna agreed to be part of every drop of ink in Srila Prabhupada's books and even the white space in Prabhupada's books. These books are full of Krishna. And Prabhupada is able to do that by because the nature of bhakti is Krishna akarshani sacha, right? The devotional service is akarshani. It attracts Krishna like a magnet. And the most attractive thing about the all attractive person is that he wants to be attracted to you. He wants to be attracted to every living entity. And that's devotional service. Krishna akarshani sacha. Yes, Kalki Prabhu. Yes.
and when a devotee approaches Krishna, with this thing that, well, I'm doing this for you, but it has to be done. Sometimes Krishna will fulfill, and sometimes he won't.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll show that you have all these desires, and yes, your plans are all very nice, but I
But
have my
not
plan,
right
and I'm going
now.
to do it the way I want to do it. And he won't.
Yeah.
He'll
How many
kinda
Bhagavatams
like
you want to
smash
distribute?
you,
Not today,
basically.
brother. You'll get puffed up.
He smashes because it's a sign of a little pride.
Yeah.
It's like where the devotee thinks, well, I got Krishna under my control. Krishna, well, actually, no.
I'm going to go break the world record today, and you do 33 Bhagavatams and you're flopped.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just want to comment. I don't know if you made the point in the class because the audio kind of like I couldn't hear like part of the class. No, it wasn't. It was anyway. It was like
we try to get on their case
It-
every
it-
moment.
Trace fixed it, but no, the verse when you read it in the beginning, it made me realize that because someone asked the question previously, just the whole thing with Hiranyakashipu, because he's offering prayers to Brahma in the 7th canto about how you're great, you're the super soul, and all these things, which is specifically reserved for Bhagavan. And so this verse specifically states that Brahma makes the point that
The
what is
symptom
it?
of one who's an illusion that they think like this.
Yeah, exactly. That if you don't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you're not aware of Him, then you'll automatically think that Brahma is supreme, and then what like that. And that was Hiranyakashipu's position actually, because he would say, you know, I want to kill Vishnu, and he was thinking
Yeah.
Vishnu just some pose.
Where is this Vishnu?
And he was just like
Yeah.
thinking like, you know, he's just like whatever, one of the one of the
Yeah.
demigods. And so being an illusion because of that, you know, this verse here signifies his consciousness. So therefore he was thinking that Brahma is supreme because, you know, whatever he's, you know, what I'm just kind of speculating, but you know, Brahma was one and he created many, like that
Right.
verse, because he was aware of the
Yeah.
Vedas and all those
Yeah,
things. So
Nityo Nityanam shit.
anyways, that's it. So I'm gonna clean this thing.
Yeah, and another thing I always think about the inconceivable nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, I'm reading Vamana Leela right now, and then, you know, just to think of being just one of those living entities. If imagine we were standing outside during Vamana Leela, and then there's like a foot covering everything that you could see and beyond. You know, how inconceivable is that? That the Lord's foot is so huge that a small portion of it is covering everything that your eyes could see. Krishna is so inconceivable. Anyway, I was just thinking about the Achintya Shakti of the Supreme Lord. Ram Das Abhiram. Okay, yeah, whoever gets the mic first. Where's the mic? Oh, Kalki Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It was one
I
thing when you
always
was
do.
talking about, like, you know, how people want to see God, and you know how they think they're so qualified to see Him. And it reminded me when you were speaking about this, about when Vishnu wanted to see Krishna, you know, and he couldn't. You know, he's actually the protector of the Brahmanas, and he was actually putting the Brahmanas in danger just so he could see Krishna.
Mm.
So I remember that pastime when you were speaking upon that. And one thing I wanted to ask was, like, you know, I thought Brahma was asked to go see Hiranyakashipu. I hear you say he's forced?
I mean, he was forced because the fire from Hiranyakashipu's
Was he not?
head was burning up the entire universe, and the demigods thought, I think Lord Shiva has come too early for the time of annihilation. What's going on here? So therefore, he was forced. The demigods requested him to go see him.
Okay.
So therefore, he was forced to do so.
So because, okay.
Yes. Rishabha Prabhu. That's Rishabha Prabhu. That's him.
Oh,
You thought Isaac got initiated?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. And I heard before also that we are the smallest universes. Do any of the devotees know more about like what determines the size of the universe is like being
The heads of the Brahma.
So what does what determines
Like the amount
heads?
of heads is the amount of billion yojanas. So like 4 billion yojanas is the size of this universe called the heads of the Brahma. I was hearing this in that lecture.
And what determines the amount of head Brahma will get?
The karma, the karmic qualification, and also the, you know, like the universe, the particular universe requires a particular kind of Brahma, etc. Okay, Isaac, is it a quick one? Because I only have 5 minutes and the Mataji didn't ask. Yeah, ask me later, okay? Mataji's anything? No, okay, Isaac, yeah, go for it. 1 minute, please. Yeah,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Regarding to the heads of Brahma, I heard to say that each head is reciting one of the Vedas. Is
Okay.
this right?
Okay. I mean, the Chatur Vedas, I'm not sure exactly, but yes, it's in the 3rd canto.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're studying the Vedas or something like that.
Two
So,
questions.
huh?
Two questions. That means in other universes.
I don't know. I
There
have
are more
no idea.
Vedas.
There's millions
no,
of
no.
Vedas here. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not gonna.
Okay, no.
Yeah, no clue.
My second question is, if was Srila Vyasadeva who divided the Veda, it was originally one Veda. And
Yeah.
He divided into 4.
Yeah.
How is possible that Brahma has been chanting the 4 Vedas?
He's been
There's
chanting the
only
Veda,
one.
which is also the 4 Vedas. It's simultaneously. Don't worry about it. Simultaneously, you just understand. So he was just chanting the Veda, and Vyasadeva divided it into 4. That's all. Nothing too complicated. If you don't understand it, distribute more books, and you'll realize it soon. Okay? Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Taking over the word of Shri Prabhupada stands in the book.